And welcome back to the BigCheese podcast. I am your host this week, Jacob Wise. And with me, I've got Sean Hise and Brandon Corbin and special guest, Tim Hickle. Welcome. First time you've been on the show.
So are you a protocol? We were just talking protocols over platforms. Is that something?
I think that it's very important for the fundamental aspects of the internet and the web to proliferate, for AI to succeed long term, but also for society to succeed and to continue to have power in the for the community and the people to have some sort of power. Because if you leave it up to the hands of Google and Reddit and OpenAI and Microsoft, next thing you know, we're going to have two apps.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's where all the information is going to be coming from. And they won't be sourcing jack shit.
Yeah. The point is there's a lot of very talented people in the world that didn't have access to information. And when you give talented people access to information, you make the world a bigger pie, it's a better place. That's a good
argument, yeah.
So what we're talking about is what happens if that person who's a diamond in the rough somewhere or didn't have access or doesn't have the money to pay to get the information, what did we lose? What's the opportunity cost there?
And I mean, think about it. If the web is completely open, you can publish to it, right? Let's say a world where it's not, and let's say that YouTube and Reddit win, and that's where there's either go watch a video on YouTube or you go see a post on Reddit. Well, what if Reddit decided, you know what, in Eastern Europe, this is the type of content that they're going to be able to see.
And they will, because they have shareholders, and it's all about...
In Compton, New York, this is the type of content we're going to show there.
Right. Have you messed around much with Blue Sky?
I haven't. No.
No? It's fine. It's fine. As a platform, it's okay. I think the principles behind it are more interesting than the platform itself, but the whole idea is... this is built around that platform versus protocol thesis of like we need to move away from platforms.
That's the protocol-based social media thing.
Yeah, we did talk about that a few episodes ago.
So we've so heavily over the last decade, 15 years, like VC has basically flooded the market with platforms, and platforms are not the solution, right? Like protocols are the solution, and we haven't had a competitive protocol since RSS, you know? So introducing a new social protocol, whether it is the @ protocol, which is what Blue Sky runs on, or the social pub protocol, which is what Meta is messing around with. I think that the central idea, the central thesis behind all of this is no matter what you do, any platform is going to run into the problem. Some people are going to think you're moderating too much, and some people are going to think you're not moderating enough. And there's no way to solve that problem.
Right. Totally.
So what if instead you give every user the ability to make that decision on their own and to basically opt into their algorithm? Like, what if I could opt into a search engine that did not serve me search engine optimized content?
Oh, like, I've got a comment on this. So Twitter. X.
The everything platform?
Yeah, the everything platform, right, which will never happen. Okay, first I'm going to sidetrack here. This idea of the everything app is based on, what's the
WeChat.
Or WeChat.
WeChat, right? Yep. It will never happen in America. It happens in China because you can be forced to have to use an app, right? There's no way that Elon is going to be able to build an everything app that is a user experience, that is anything but a user experience nightmare, right? That's my stance, is that this idea that you're going to have one app that does everything. Anyway, doesn't really matter. I fucking hate X since Elon's taken over.
Bad.
It is a cesspool.
Dumpster fire.
Absolute dumpster fire. So I was, and it hurt my feelings because, again, I lost Apollo, right? So Apollo's gone now because Reddit all of a sudden wants to charge $16,000 a fucking year for their API or whatever. And Apollo was the greatest app ever designed for Reddit. And so then I'm like, and now we got X, and X is literally turned into a cesspool. So I went down the objective of I'm going to make X bearable again. So I go in and I find how I can go and ban specific words from ever showing up in my timeline. And I go and I add libtard, right? I let maggot, right? Like everything that's like politically aligned, I get rid of it. And it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like, oh, I'm back. Now people are arguing like, is Vue better than React or whatever? And it's not this fucking cesspool. And I set it for 30 days just to see. So like after 30 days, it all cleared up and I went right back to the cesspool. And dude, I'm telling you, night and frigging day, going from just get rid of all the political stuff, all of it. Like, I don't want my own ideologies. I don't want their ideologies. I don't want any ideologies. I want Twitter to be Twitter again, where we had fun. And now it is actually bearable. And I immediately, after those 30 days ended up, I had to go back and reset it all up.
And what's cool about Blue Sky, like the promise of Blue Sky is not only the ability to do that super easily, but also the ability for me to then come in and say, you know what? It sounds like, Brandon, you put a lot of thought into this, and the way that you have moderated your social feed sounds like the way I'd like to explore that too. I'm going to use yours, right?
No,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, that's the promise. Now,
but I have a huge problem with that.
You do?
Yeah, because now you're just going to reinforce all your own personal biases.
But how that's where my head went first.
I don't know that the internet is ever like. Yeah. I think we're through the looking glass there. I think you're right. And I don't think it matters. Yeah. Like, I think it's
because it already does. Because they're already incentivized because they want you to look at it longer. So they're already going to do that, right? So I agree with you. If I'm at the wheel, go ahead.
But what if I could? So if this is on a protocol, right? So let's go back to RSS, right? Like, I can go download a podcast listener of choice. I don't need to listen to, like, I use Pocket Cast. I love Pocket Cast because the interface is better for me and I enjoy it better.
I use that for my dirty podcast, and that's the only thing I use it for.
Hot question. What's your top 5 AI-enabled marketing tools right now?
That's fucking out of nowhere.
Well, he just threw out one.
We're pulling it in.
Yeah.
Right.
So I love Jasper. Jasper is super helpful for writing, especially.
You've been using that for a while. Yeah. When we talked last time, you were using Jasper.
So the thing that I always tell people love talking about what AI can write for you, and I think that's the wrong way to frame it mentally. Like, it's not what AI can. AI is bad at writing. AI is amazing at rewriting. AI is amazing at, like, I wrote one email, and I can send this one email out to our entire list of 1 million people, but I want to segment this out. So how about, historically, if I wanted to rewrite that for 5 different personas, that takes me a bunch of time. I can say hey, I've trained you on my personas, rewrite this for 20 different personas. So, like, that's super hyper segmentation. And then also making sure that, like, if you've got a big team, you can constantly pull people back to, like, hey, we use this language to talk about the product, and it's essentially a smarter Grammarly. Right.
Nice.
So I love that. Big fan of ChatGPT. Like, ChatGPT, building your own custom GPTs with GPT-4 that are specific to your company and your instance is like, I do not think there is a better tool out there right now for building a co-pilot. Just because of how good it is from a training perspective. I love Notion. Notion, I'm like obsessed with. I'm updating my Notion like for 2 hours a night every night right now because I'm just obsessed with Notion. And then I like Midjourney. I have a lot of fun with Midjourney. And
are we still on Discord with Midjourney? Or is it?
They launched a web. I thought they launched a web interface.
I don't think you can use it.
In 2 weeks, and I haven't. It's been 2 weeks since I've checked. It's been about 2 months since I applied for the beta. I do not have access. Okay, yeah.
But I like the way Discord's interface works with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of doing it.
Well, and I also just in general, I think that, like, AI from a tooling perspective for marketing teams is really good for things like stock imagery, background music, the things that don't need to be good. Right. Yeah. AI is great for things that don't need to be good.
No, my girlfriend's a market researcher, and she had a presentation where she needed an image of a pool with people relaxing next to it, and she used DALL-E for that. And of course, it made a dog with 3 legs. It made a person who was facing backwards, but somehow her body was forward. Didn't matter. It was good enough. It looked at first glance, it looked pretty damn good, and it was exactly what she needed to display.
Exactly.
Right? That's the use case.
So there was 4. We need one more.
We need one more.
I need one more.
Stable
I think that was very good. 4 very good answers.
Off the cuff, absolutely.
The other what's the one that?
Trivia. Describe.
I hope you guys have these memorized.
Thank you.
Did we run out?
Yeah, the card was corrupted.
Oh my God!
Are you shitting me?
I can tell you now or after, whichever one.
So which are both cameras done?
No, I mean, it's all still going, but the one on the left, the one I was messing with, the card was corrupted.
So the whole thing's gone.
The last like 20 minutes
Tim, what in the holy fuck?
Do we have the audio? Yeah, we have the audio. We'll just publish it on Apple.
Oh my fucking.
Well, this has been the BigCheese podcast. That camera doesn't work, but
they're both going, so you guys can keep going, and we can still clip it up. Like since you guys have had good conversations since I figured it out.
oh, so we're now recording.
Yeah, you guys are like completely recording since I've been over there. Like it's 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes you got.
Okay.
And all to the right.
I think the last 20 minutes was the best part of it, anyways.
Probably. All right.
Yeah.
I don't have. I have 20 minutes of this side. I have the entire thing of this side, and so we can still.
Oh, we'll get all of the shorts of Tim then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Roll one. Sorry. This one I don't have.
He has this one. Oh,
It's the last 20 minutes, so we can still flip everything up.
Okay.
okay.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up. Do we need to get? do we need to buy him?
Hold on. Suno.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Suno. I like Suno because, again, I like AI for things that don't have to be good, and I have a lot of things in my life where it's like I need a background song for this thing, and it doesn't
Suno.
need to be good, right?
That's the one we played with a while
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And I agree. B-roll or videos or audio, it's really
So
good for that.
Opus Clip now has a feature that you can add B-roll into your short automatically.
Oh my gosh.
So doesn't that mean I'm dumb as hell? Doesn't that mean that I can just do what we thought we were talking about doing?
Yeah.
Which is like, as I'm talking, it'll figure
Yeah.
out what needs to be like random video clip to put in, like a bomb exploding or like someone's head popping
like
off.
those dudes who are
Like those interludes.
Yeah, like those
Yeah.
guys. So these guys, they reached out to us and they're like, "Hey, we took one of your shorts and we made it fucking better." And it was just like, whoa, like world difference between having a professional do your shorts versus Opus Clips. Do your
And this
shorts.
just continues to reinforce what AI is good at. You still need to have the main topic. You still need to be good at the
Right.
creative, the how you're presenting it. But if you want to spice it up a little bit, if you need the supporting document, the supporting image, boom, it can do it.
Exactly.
And that's great for marketers, right? Because I'm sure marketers get stuck all the time on stuff that they might not be that good at, but they're really good at something.
Well,
and they need to fill the gaps.
And a lot of times it's like someone has to do this. Someone has to design this thing. And I'm not a very good graphic designer.
I mean, I built my entire living on marketers not being able to write HTML and CSS.
yeah, right.
I mean,
It's true. Damn it.
damn it. You know what I mean? But I mean,
Well,
but
and
like
especially
if they could have done it, they would have done it.
Well, and especially on smaller teams where it's like, I just need to get a proof of concept out there and get some feedback. I need to get a proof of concept out there, get some data, right?
Yeah, and you know, that's such a good point in marketing because I feel like I hear that all the time from marketers, but like somebody's always in the way of that getting executed, right?
Yep.
You end up like limping into the test, you know, and you're like, and then the owner or the person who's providing the budget's like, why are my ads not working or something? And it's like, you know, this is a process. Like this isn't, you know, and I think that for any project that involves creative and lots of different interdependencies, AI is great, right? Because you can slot in different places. So for marketers, maybe this is making you get to market quicker.
Yeah.
With your stuff.
Are you seeing? So we always talk about iterations in app development, and a big part of what we do is it's expensive to code something, so we spend a lot of time in ideation and just going over, okay, here's what it could do, why do you want it to do that, all that stuff. But when push comes to shove, nothing beats getting the product in front of somebody. They use it, and then they're like, oh, well, I didn't think about. And it's not even a knock on them. I could be sarcastic and shitty about it, but the reality is that's how our brains work. Once you use the thing, you start to really understand the mental model is built. Now I get why I didn't want that. So the faster we can iterate, the faster we can get stuff in front of our customers, the better we can get that improvement, that continual improvement.
Yes.
Same thing's got to be true for you in marketing.
It's 100% true. And what I've experienced is like as teams scale, that becomes harder. So it's like there's this inverse correlation that if you can find the middle, if you can find equilibrium here, you have struck gold and you can't be beat. But keeping an equilibrium is like impossible, right? Which is to be on one end of the spectrum is you're completely agile, right? We're going to ship, we're going to get feedback, we're going to iterate quick, right? I'm going to think of an idea this morning. I'm going to develop it this morning. I'm going to ship it this morning. I will know by this afternoon if we're doing it more or less, right? And you can be super, super agile, make really fast decisions, and learn really, really fast. How do we shorten learning cycles is a thing I talk to teams a lot about, right? Just like the goal here isn't to get an outcome. It is to shorten our learning cycles as much as possible. On the other end of that spectrum is where all the money is, right? Because no executive is giving you a giant budget to do that shit, right? They'll give you a giant budget for a well thought out plan of what you're going to do for the next 6 months with their money, right? And so down here, you have no resources, but a lot of data. Up here, you have a lot of resources, but you get no data, right? You get no information. Finding equilibrium there, like the moments when you find equilibrium, where you're still able to test, ship quickly, test, iterate, experiment, get data back from the real world, from the market, while still having plenty of budget and resources to tap into to make the work quality good. When you find equilibrium there, it's magic. Staying in equilibrium is impossible because if you're successful at this, more resources are going to find you. And if more resources find you, they demand this other thing that this thing is not conducive to.
How is AI going to change the way people buy things?
So I forget the name of this platform, but there was a platform I was listening to a podcast about recently that literally like the promise of this, I don't know that it can actually do this, but it's like I show up to the website of a SaaS company and I can essentially have this AI do a walkthrough of the software for me. So getting rid of the like request a demo type nonsense stuff that everyone's got to go through. That is something that I anticipate seeing more of over the course of the next 5 years, especially in like B2B SaaS. I think you're going to see a lot of people moving towards how can we use generative AI to answer questions for customers, to show the product to customers? How can we get humans out of, because right now there are, I mean this not disrespectfully to any of the individual lovely humans I know that do these professions out there, but like there are a lot of extraneous humans involved in the process, right? There are just a lot of humans that while they are wonderful people, like are not necessary for the buying process. I do not need to talk to an SDR who will hand me to an AE, who will hand me to a CSM. Like I do not need to have those 3 relationships plus probably 5 more relationships within a company for the 50 SaaS platforms that I'm going to buy for my department, right?
I mean, you know, one thing that I haven't never thought about this until just 3 seconds ago, but buying things is sometimes an emotional experience.
Yeah.
And that can hurt you a little bit. Right? When you're going through a process, like you might have your heart set on something, right? But then you know, your intuition, you start doing the research and you ignore it, right? But like AI would be a good assistant in that process.
Tell me not to buy that car that I
wanted
because
like that. Hey, that Volkswagen, you know, you're gonna be in the shop a lot,
right?
But the winners there are the people who have the better products, right? So like then it's more like the sale. So if you're a company, a SaaS company that has good salesmen who can tap into emotions and get you to buy it, even despite the fact that it's not a good product fit for you, right? Because we'll lie to ourselves up and down that we made a good decision and I like that guy and it's totally worth the purchase, right? But if AI is taking me through this sales cycle, and it's all like, you know, unemotional, and yep, I validated this is a good product, or nope, it doesn't do what I want. I don't want this anymore. That's only good or beneficial to companies that have good product market fit, right?
Is it good? Is it a good idea to have AI inside of your entire company's like financial?
That's
like,
gonna be that's next week.
That's next week. Oh, that is all right. But like I'm thinking it from a marketer's perspective, though, right? Yeah. Like there's a lot of waste, and I think Jacob's right. I think the winner is the product. I think the winner is also the accessibility of your information. Yeah. Like if people are like people haven't talked about about it on the customer side, because I was thinking about this, and maybe you know this answer, but like I feel like the UGC stuff. Like the marketplaces of going out. Like if I want to do a Facebook ad right now, right, and I'm like a gritty marketing agency of like the young 20-year-olds. I work with one of them, and they source UGC stuff. That's basically what they do. And user-generated content. So basically just a random, not even really influencer.
Right.
Like explain like how that works and like maybe how like, why that's so easy now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a number one. It's just because there are marketplaces for it, right? It's super easy to go out and
what are some of those marketplaces?
I don't know.
But yeah, basically you can go out and just hire a random person to send you a video advertising your product. You can send them some product. You don't even have to send them like.
So like if I'm an influencer or
not even an influencer.
Okay, so I've got TikTok and I've got Instagram. I can go sign up, I would assume, for one of these things to basically be like, hey, reach out to me if you have something that matches this criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So like we have an ad running now for our liquid multivitamin company.
Old what? You have a liquid multivitamin company.
I'm an investor in it. Yeah.
What's the name?
Better Family. So it's a daily liquid multivitamin that anyone in your family can take.
And what's the website?
Betterfamily.com.
Okay. Is this a subscription?
By the way, don't go to Notion.com. It's Notion.so. If you've been sitting there wondering why you're on the wrong website.
Notion stuff.
Yeah.
So wait, is this a subscription?
Yeah, it's a subscribe and save.
Okay.
So you can subscribe and save. But what I noticed on the marketing side is that we have this company that they work with, and they just have like really affordable like videos that people are creating these ads and they're testing them constantly.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, I mean, I'm sure that was much harder to do back in the day.
And the cool thing about UGC is it's super easy to go out and say like, well, what type of person is going to resonate with my market, right? Like, I've got a client who her primary clientele is women between the ages of 40 and 65. And she ran an influencer campaign where she went out and she paid really good money to be working with an influencer house that was like, should be delivering results. They're good at what they do and they have big promises about what they say they're capable of doing, right? And the oldest woman in the influencer house is like 27, right? It's like, and guess what? No return. Paid tons of money, no return at all, right?
Wow.
But do you want to know what works really, really well for her is real members of hers shot on their iPhone, just being like, yeah, here's how I use this. Here's why I use this. Here's why I like it. Right.
Yeah.
Getting that value out from real members, but it doesn't even need to be real members because the other truth,
no,
but it looks like if it looks
yes.
genuine and authentic.
Well, and from a testing perspective, like being able to test out, like, no, I want to know, will a man or a woman perform better? Right.
It's amazing that does the testing, like literally that stuff. If you start measuring that, it'll perform completely differently.
Yeah, no, like I want to go out and I want to test and be like, all right, yeah, who is going to perform better? Who is going to resonate with my audience? And then once I start to get a picture of that, I start to see like, oh, okay, my audience tends to resonate with this person and this person and this person. How can I go find people? Now I'm going to find an influencer that looks like this, right? I'm not going to go spend.
Now I'm going to go bigger.
I'm not going to go spend $10,000.
So a good formula for right now is basically start small with the UGC stuff. Yeah. You're taking it's AI because it's modern tooling. Well, AI is modern tooling, and you're basically saying I can, for way cheaper, faster, and easier, I can go out and get content created and iterate and test it. That is very visceral video content that's going on social media. I can use it and make ads. And then I can scale that up in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't do that 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's just there are things you would have to source. Like, it's like, okay, now, congratulations, you're now responsible for sourcing 20 people that can shoot these videos. And could you find them? Could I go on Upwork 5 years ago and pull that off? I probably could. Could I go on Fiverr and find a way to do that 5 years ago? Like, I'd figure it out, right? But is it where it is today? No, not even close.
Right. Yeah, and I also think that it's like it's like the bare minimum now. People for us guys, we're just nerds. Like, we don't understand how to run a pay-per-click campaign. Okay, Brandon probably fucking does. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But like, that's the type of, like, what are people actually doing now? You know, is like kind of the question's always like, what actually works?
Right.
You know, is it literally, oh, I'm going to go buy these 3 keywords and write a
If you ask me, dude, it seems like everything that's like I just totally broke my mic. Oh shit. Is that okay? I'm not going to touch it. Is it Simply Green? No, Green. There's a company, and it's like something green, right? And they'll pay you $50 per purchase, and so now you see them on every single podcast, right? Like, for me, that's where it seems like the market's ultimately going to go, where I'm just going to pay you as an influencer. I'll pay you $55 per customer that I get.
That's one of the Better Family's biggest competitors. They're not a competitor because they're
right.
They're so it's the green drink you.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Oh.
I can't even.
Well, I can't. I want to call it Simple Green, but that's the spray, like the spray cleaner.
But I guess that's kind of a question for you. Is like, is it hard to compete now because you got these really sophisticated cross platform like campaigns going on, and these people seem to be highly beyond what other people are doing. You know what I mean?
It is a lot harder than it was 5 to 10 years ago, but I think it's easier than it was 10 to 15 years ago. Like, I think it depends on the window. It depends on the window we're talking about here, right? Like, there was a period of time where SEO and PPC and social media advertising were all solved problems. Like, these were equations that, like, no, we know you do these 3 things, and then the end output is money, right? And it's like, these are pretty predictable. We know how they work. It's not super competitive. You might have some little micro areas within your operation where it is competitive. Well, these 5 keywords are impossible for us, right? Whatever, right? But now everything is so optimized. Like, every platform has gotten so optimized. Every social platform is so optimized. Every paid ad platform is so optimized that, like, if the game you're trying to play today is, I'm going to go out and, like, I think the worst business in the world today to run would be a PPC marketing company. Wow. Like, I could not imagine a business I would want to be in less, because you are a commodity. You're also, like, it is impossible for you to be better than other people. Like, it is so hard.
Are you even like in the hemisphere of the possibility of having success if you're not doing some sort of algorithmic retargeting?
It depends a lot on the product and the buying motion.
But like, let's say for a SaaS product or a physical nuanced, product that, say, its price point's like $100 to $300. Like
for
the only winners the people that are literally somehow tapped into Instagrams listening to our conversations?
I don't necessarily buy that any sort of SaaS product is winning because of retargeting. Like, I think a product that $100 to $300 like consumer facing product probably is winning a lot with retargeting. Would be my guess, right?
I got an ad yesterday for joggers. They were basically they're trying to imitate like the Lululemon or like, anyway, doesn't matter. $40. So the price point was ridiculous, and they looked great. Their ad was fantastic. Their website looked great, but of course I'm a very
the AI
pessimistic.
Helped me on that one.
Yeah. I am so skeptical of anything, so I've Googled it and read it. Like, the first person was like, oh, this was fantastic. Probably them, because the next 6 comments were dog shit. This is a drop ship of another product that's also dog shit, and it is not worth it. And I was like, oh, good enough. I got my answer. You falling apart over there.
Sorry. Well, forgive me.
You have to think about the buying motion for each one of those things, right? Like, when you're talking about a consumer-facing product between $100 and $300, great example of a product that
the Humane Pin. Are we talking about that?
I don't know what that is.
You haven't seen the Humane Pin? It's like a little Star Trek communicator that you click.
Oh, dude, okay, yeah.
And MK Marquez Brown or whatever, he just roasted him, and everybody's like, "You're killing that company."
But is he though? Like,
no, he's not, because it's dog shit.
I read that on like, if the product's bad and you review it. Honestly, I didn't hear any lies in his review.
No, there was not a single lie.
Okay. The more I think about it, it's like there's so many different ways, right, to do it. Like we talked about, what's that Chinese website that was on the Super Bowl commercials? Temu competes on what price?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But they market like crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Like, which is like weird, right?
It is.
They already have the lowest price, but they're also just.
But they're spending billions on ads.
They're trying to get you to download their app. But so, like, I guess I'm thinking about it as like, finding the right flow for what you're selling.
Right.
And how do you, and is it just research? Is it
So I actually have a specific thing that I'm working on right now for one of my clients that kind of aligns with what you're asking. And so we have an extremely large member database for one of my clients, and they want to start basically better understanding who their members are, right? They don't have really any clue. They know that these people have signed up, they've paid, and that they pay each time, but they don't have any really insight into who their customers are. And so the way that I'm kind of looking at it is I'm like, we've got this database of, 200,000 members. We should probably be doing just the basics, which is like an ideal customer profile. And then to be able, you could hypothetically leverage AI to then be able to group them into the specific, use AI to identify the ideal customer profiles, and then run through each of them to basically group them into it. I don't know if you've seen anything or anybody's doing anything like that.
So I haven't seen that specific type of solution, but I like that. And I think to your point about where to begin, it's like, you've got to begin with a thesis in mind. Like one of the things that I see a lot of, especially early career, like first time marketing people try to do is, I'm going to run this playbook because this is what I saw somebody else do, and I think it's going to be successful. And it's like, well, that's going to fail for two reasons. It's going to fail, number one, because you're running a playbook someone else ran in a completely different context, not knowing why it worked for them, right? It could have worked for them for reasons completely divorced from everything that you're doing in your market, right? But the other reason is like, especially when I'm trying to figure out where to begin, I am looking to validate or invalidate a hypothesis, right? I'm not looking on day number one to get results. I'm looking to figure out, like, am I right about this thing or not? And when you start with personas, when you start with like, here are my personas, here is a group of 100 people that I think are in this persona, and I want to get them to take this action. I really want them to buy this thing. I want them to subscribe for this paid product, whatever it is. I can run a campaign against those people, and I can test. I believe if I do this, this is how many people are going to do that. Am I right or wrong? I can at least start with a hypothesis and take that thesis-driven approach. And that will give me, I'll figure out really quickly what's working and what isn't. And I can then go back to that thesis and say, all right, well, what did I get wrong here? There are clearly some assumptions I made. Let me debug my own assumptions. I assumed 10 people of those 100 would respond to those email campaigns. What did I assume the open rate was going to be? Yeah. Right. And was it low? Was the open rate way lower than I was expecting? And I was wrong about that hypothesis. I was wrong about that part of the
That's
that
where
assumption.
AI could really help when you're talking about searching your own data.
Yeah.
Is understanding, get better understanding what was done in the past. So if you work at a marketing agency, there's probably all kinds of data that you may or may not have access to, and figuring out how to plug into that and say, okay, what did we do in this scenario? How was it? Was it successful? I mean, obviously that information is probably, you could probably just ask your boss at some level, but I can't imagine how many people have made decisions off false assumptions that didn't even know that they were doing that. Right. And I just don't, I don't think people necessarily think about, well, this concept is not even applicable. This playbook shouldn't even be in, this isn't the same sport.
This goes back to that idea of that shared knowledge base, right? If everyone on that team is responsible for uploading their lessons learned when they're running experiments to this shared knowledge base, and you can go query that, and you can go talk to that knowledge base, and not only will it give you answers, but it will tell you like, hey, by the way, this is the person who ran this campaign, and you can reach out to them and talk more about it. Like, the number of times where it's like that I've been leading a team and it's like, this person has figured out a thing that this person hasn't, and half of my job is air traffic control. I'm just like, it's like, I feel like if you're ever going into a sporting event and you see one guy with a sign that says I need tickets and another guy that says I'm selling tickets, you just want to introduce them to each other.
Here's my, as someone who runs a business and has employees, I think that may be the most annoying thing that you can experience as a manager, as a operator, is the simple fact that people don't collaborate as much as you think they would.
Yep.
And even people that have worked together for years, they typically kind of want to it's more of an input and output system. Like they're doing something and they want to figure out how to just get that done. And, it takes a special person, I feel like, to go, you know what, let's figure out what the team thinks. Let's collaborate. Let me put myself out there a little bit. And so people don't, they shy away. And then you have the opposite people that literally will schedule a meeting for you to do their homework, right? But don't get me started with that.
I've worked with those people.
Did you see that Jeff Bezos video the other day? It was the best video. I sent it to my wife. My wife's a principal of school. And it was talking about how he didn't allow PowerPoints at Amazon. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yep, 8-page memo, yep.
Yep, so yeah, the 8-page memo. He's like, you could, PowerPoints hide inadequacy. Right? They hide basically a lack of work. They basically put you in a position where you don't have to put any thought into what you're doing, right? And but a memo, you have to go write the memo. The memo has to be concise, has to be read and consumed all on its own. It can't be presented, right? And so when someone's doing a presentation, you ask a question, you go, oh, we'll fix that in the other slide, or we'll take that offline. A memo you can't take offline, right? And I always thought that was very important, right? And it's just like you putting a full thought in everything into something as its own specific deliverable, is part of that, right? And then you don't have to. Then your collaboration is. For the shy person, the introvert at work that doesn't want to bother anybody, he's going to get the answer.
Read the damn docs.
Yeah, he's not going to get 3 bullet points on a PowerPoint.
Right.
So here's my Slack killer that like someone out there please build for me so I can buy it. Like I would like to buy this software from you, please. I don't like Slack. I think Slack was built on a lot of faulty assumptions. And it was built in a world based on a lot of faulty assumptions that we now learn to be false, and they don't understand that the assumptions they made were false. There's too much insular thinking at Salesforce for Slack to ever change, so it won't.
We're fighting words in Indiana, man. You're gonna get jumped.
No, I'm not, because they're not going to listen to this podcast. No,
touche.
They're going to listen to all their Salesforce certified podcasts. Like there's like
that because we have a poor readership.
What sucks? What?
No. So what sucks about Slack specifically is I think it's too much of an open sandbox, right? I show up to the Slack interface, and who do I interact with? What do I interact with? It's a very big choose your own adventure for me, which means like if you have a company of 100 people, there are 100 Slack instances in your organization, and they're all different. And they don't feel different to you, but you're not the one experiencing them, right? Like there are 100 different ways people are experiencing Slack. And I think that's weird, and I don't think that's how we construct our office spaces. Like when we construct an office space, we don't say each of you get 100 little itty bitty rooms that you get to personalize any way you like. We have these big shared spaces that kind of force a little bit of that interaction. We have all these rituals that force that interaction. Like it's a thing we think about when we're in person that we don't think about virtually. And the simple pivot that I wish we would see, and it's going to take somebody else coming in and displacing them for it to happen, is I wish instead I logged on and the first person I interact with is a chatbot that is trained on.
It's going to happen. There's no question that they're going to.
That's the golden path, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just an option, because right now I can go plug in a generative bot right now. But it's an option, not a golden path, right? I want a golden path. Like I log on.
Come in, tell me everything I've missed.
The first, and I log on, it feeds me that. It gives me a little synopsis. If I've been gone for a week, it does the Twitter thing.
Totally.
Where it shows me like just the best stuff for the past 7 days, whatever.
X.
But, sorry. The everything platform. But then when I'm asking it questions, I'm talking about this problem, it says, hey, by the way, these 2 colleagues actually have some really interesting insights that I think you should learn from. Would you like me to set up a conversation between the 2 of you? And the generative AI could basically broker those conversations. And I imagine a universe in which I open this up, and one of the things that my generative AI is asking me is like, hey, these 3 people in the organization, like this person from engineering, they have a question about this feature they're trying to launch, and they think they could learn a lot from product marketing. Like, would you be willing to sit down with them? Who on your team?
That's an interesting concept, and that you know what that hurts is Apple's AI play, because Apple's AI play is all going to be based on what it sees on your screen,
right?
And what you're doing,
completely bubbled, right?
And they're not really in the business market, right? And so maybe it's time to sell. No, I'm kidding. We talk about Apple stock every week. But I guess the interesting thing is that Apple's not really going to have access to the company's data. They're going to have access to you personally. So really, that means they're only going to win on your personal life.
So now this might be all bullshit because I saw it on TikTok. So take it with a grain of salt, right? That part of the functionality and features that are coming out in the 18 in iOS 18. Is it 18? Is that the version? Or are we on 17 right now?
We're on 17.
Okay, so in 18 is to be able to start seeing who's talking about you. So as you and I are having a chat, we're talking about Jacob. Hypothetically, Jacob would be able to see that, oh, hey, they're talking about you. Would you be interested in joining this conversation?
Holy shit.
I know.
Wait.
This is
horrifying on every front, right?
I need to switch to Android because I am not emotionally stable enough to handle the ping of like, hey,
What do
your
you
three
mean?
friends are all talking about you. It's like
they're talking about me?
I am not. I need to switch to Android.
That's
Oh
why
my God.
I think that's why we have to absolutely take everything I'm saying here with a massive grain of salt, because it seems like that would be very antithesis to what Apple's entire approach is.
It's just a fundamental thing you talk about with AI is the winners aren't the winner of the general AI thing right now is ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But the future winners is the products and services that latch onto contextual information. So an organization's information, someone's personal information about their personal life, which Apple's going to win that battle, if you ask me. But who's going to win the business one? Is it Microsoft? Is it Slack?
Google.
Is it Salesforce? Is it Google? And or is it some other startup? Because or is it a conglomerate? Is it the Notions?
Did you see Google's keynote or their conference of all the tooling that they have coming out? It's pretty freaking impressive. Like, of course, it's all doctored and like, best case scenario stuff. But basically, we were talking about B-roll and like making presentations. It's all geared around that. It's all like here. You could make one of the slides they had was like someone presenting information in one corner, and there was like a nice generated image over here that was, it was just making consumable information for your organization in the context of that easier and more professional.
The reason why Google wins in those situations is the same reason why Lawrence Township has Chromebooks, right? And Google Workspace, because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Right, everything's in the cloud. They don't need. They have underpowered devices that run on Google Workspace, and they have a good deal. Guess what? These kids all, their whole life cycle for 12 years is on a Google device, and so that's a pretty big footprint.
That's a good point. Maybe Microsoft wins now. So here's what I think will happen. Microsoft will just copy that. They'll have Teams version of all the things that Google's going to do. They're going to win for now because corporate America runs on Microsoft. But yeah, the next generation, which has been literally spoon-fed Google Workspace for their entire lives.
The problem with the large organizations, though, is this is solved, or it's attempting to be solved, is it's harder because you have permissions and issues with, you know what I mean? Like for small, I'm interested to see who wins the 1 to 30 size person company, or you know what I mean, or like that battle, because that's probably going to be
that's going to be the hardest.
It's going to be the hardest, and the tools are going to be the best.
Yep.
Yes,
agreed.
You know what I mean? Those tools will be the easiest to use.
Yeah.
It's like what happened when Slack came out. It completely changed how people worked, and that was penetrated at smaller organizations and went to bigger ones.
So Salesforce owns Slack.
Correct.
Yep.
Microsoft owns Yammer. So Microsoft bought Yammer years and years and years ago.
Dick York, Dick Sargent, Sergeant York.
So what does Google have? Does Google have anything? Because
they have Wave.
Because I was thinking about that. I'm like, we obviously use Slack for our internal stuff, but
they tried to come out with a Slack competitor a couple years ago, and they kiboshed it.
Yeah, and that was the part that's kind of blowing me away, because the fact is we should be able just to have conversations.
They had
across.
Slack 10, 20 years ago with
GChat.
All they had to do is keep working on that.
Exactly.
But that's typical of Google.
I know.
They're a very siloed organization.
Yeah, and if
that
they
has
can't make $1 billion,
they go boom, give you a bunch of money. Didn't work immediately. Next, didn't work immediately. Next, but what they do is they come out with stuff.
Yeah, no question about that.
They come out with lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And their advantage is the AI stuff. I think is conducive to what they're good at.
Right.
Like data science.
Right.
For example.
I mean, but we should have Slack. Like we should have that Slack experience across. When I'm in Drive, I should be able to message you and be like, "Hey, check out this file." Right?
But
Instead I gotta go to Slack.
We know why they can't win with Drive. You already figured it out. It's not Markdown.
No, but even then, it's like I like we're in the big cheese. Google space. Why can't we be having conversations?
No, we
across all of it?
literally have to use Slack
we go to Slack
because we don't have a tool.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous. Like there's no reason why you can't have Team or GChat just as like an integrate because it works. It's been around for 1,000 years.
Google, and Microsoft none of them have a sufficient real-time collaboration tool. Teams is a joke. It's horrendous.
Is awful. Yeah, I don't like Teams at all.
It's terrible.
Like if I had to pick between Slack and Teams, Slack wins for sure.
But I'm with you on that whole journey concept. Google. Maybe that's one of the reasons why people don't reach out.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, anyways,
we
probably should be done.
Wrap it.
Been out here for too long.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, Tim, for joining us. This has been the Big Cheese podcast, and we'll see you next week.